Okay, so we're going to kick off the afternoon session. We've got two presentations and a panel session. And the first presentation is actually going to be done by me. So we're going to talk about Google+. Now, Google+ again is something which there's lots and lots of chat about. There's lots and lots of noise about Google+. I'm going to try and do a couple of things today. One, try and kind of explain what it is and why it might be relevant to you. And two, give you some ideas about what you might want to do with Google+. So that's what it looks like. I mean, one first question: how many of you have got a personal Google+ profile? Pretty good. How many people are using it as much as maybe another social network that they might be on? I am. Okay, so in terms of the reasons why we sort of launched Google+, there are a number of different things that we found about the marketing industry, full stop, or the industry or consumer behaviour. And as you know, Google is all about trying to understand the user, trying to understand the customer, and then putting that into its product. So these are some of the things that we came up with. The first one, it's hard to truly connect. Sorry, let me go back there. That's going a bit further forward. Hard to truly connect. We're here today, and we'll make some potentially fleeting relationships. Hopefully, there'll be some more deep relationships that we'll make with each other here today. But there are lots and lots of opportunities to make relationships both on and offline. And so how do we make any sense of those? How do we actually make them deeper? How do we progress those from being something which is quite small and a one-off into something that lasts much longer? The second thing is that the party is actually getting bigger. So this is the latest figure, which we've released on YouTube. We've now got 60 hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every single minute. 6 months ago, that was 48 hours. 6 months before that, it was 36 hours. So we're seeing this progression of more and more content being uploaded into YouTube. That's just like one site. There are millions of sites out there, all of which are getting more and more content onto them. So how do we cut through? If we've got all this noise out there and it's more difficult to make these connections, how do we achieve this cut through? And the third thing is that the actual attention span of our consumers is getting shorter. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. And again, this is quite an old stat. This is a couple of years old. But to use my kids as an example, they're 4, 6, and 8. They never ever watch scheduled TV. They only ever watch time-shifted TV, or because they're my kids and I've kind of brainwashed them into doing it, they watch lots of YouTube on the iPad. If we've got these kind of three things going on, we've got that it's more difficult to connect. We've got that the time is getting shorter, and that we've got more noise out there. There's a problem. However, having said that, there is a big benefit to achieving this connection. So what we're also seeing is, because of this noise, this content that's being produced by our consumers, a lot of it is about our brands. So 77% of brand content is being created by our consumers. Now, on the one hand, we've got consumers who are saying that marketeers don't know how to talk to them. So there was a stat I saw a couple of weeks ago which said that 75% of women don't think that marketeers know how to talk to them, except in beauty products, apparently. But they are very, very keen to talk about brands themselves. They're starting to feel that they are the experts in this space. And then finally, and this won't be as any surprise to anyone, that 90% of people trust recommendations from people they know. Now, again, that needs some kind of refining. So you don't always trust recommendations from everyone you know. So my brother, for example, I would seek his recommendation if I was looking to buy a pair of headphones. He's into music, he buys lots of technical equipment in that space, and so it would make sense if I spoke to him about headphones. I'm not going to speak to him about fashion if I was looking to buy a new suit, because his fashion sense is dreadful. And so, I only look for recommendations from the people I know when I actually know that that's going to be of value. So the first kind of thing to understand about Google+ is not just about your social graph, it's all about your interest graph. It's about things that you're interested in, not just people that you're interested in. And it's adding this social layer across all of Google products. So at the moment, I don't know why we've cut the G off there, so all those lovely things that you love about Google, like search, like YouTube, like mobile, like ads, what we're essentially doing is adding a social layer across all of them. through identity, through relationships, and through sharing. And this is all underpinned by this kind of feeling or this perception that social is a core human behaviour. It's not somewhere you go to. You don't go somewhere to be social. So, we're here today in a work environment, but we are being social because human beings are sociable creatures, right? And so, if we've got all that noise in the background, what does that mean in terms of marketing messages and marketing communication? And the first one is that messages are impersonal. So by that we mean that there is lots and lots of content being produced by brands, by marketing departments, and often it's very difficult to target it. It's very difficult to kind of get the right content to the right people at the right time. So the idea that we've had to try and get around this is this concept of circles. Now, most of you on Google+, so you're going to be quite familiar with it. The idea behind circles is that you're in a circle, which means that you can actually share content with specific people at a specific moment in time. Essentially meaning that you can share all of your content, everything that you ever want to share, on one platform, but you just segment your audiences in different ways. And we'll have a look at my site in a minute if you're interested to see how I might have done it. But this is something that Intel did. And what Intel actually asked their audience was to self-select their circle. So instead of Intel deciding what content was relevant, they said, well, why don't you tell us what content is relevant? So for the sake of argument, I might put myself in the technology enthusiasts circle because Intel makes some good chips and there are some really good products. It's less likely that I'm going to put myself in the Intel Polska circle because I don't speak Polish and don't live there and have never been there. And so, what that enables Intel to do is actually give the right content to the right people as and when they've asked for it. The second problem that we've seen is that comments are not conversations. I used to work in publishing. We used to publish lots and lots of websites. And on some of the articles, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments, none of which really meant anything. It was just people shouting or ranting and no one was really paying that much attention, to be perfectly honest, to those comments. It was a bit one way. It's quite difficult to have two-way conversations. And we're all here today. We're having a face-to-face event. We could have done this in a number of different ways. I think everyone sees the value of actually having face-to-face. So what if you could have real conversations with your customers? Now, you're all going to be familiar with this technology if you've used it already. But what I'm going to do is actually go live onto Google Plus now. This is my page. Here's some of my posts here, which we'll look at in a bit more detail, but in a second. But just very, very quickly, this is what we're seeing organisations use the Hangout feature for, which is I'm going to take you through now, is a number of different things. We're seeing it used for first screen interviews. We're seeing it for competition winners. We're seeing it as a way of actually getting technical advice. And I think all of that is because it's so unbelievably easy to use. He says, hoping that actually this works. So I'm actually going to set this to public because who knows who might be out there. So we set that to public. If we just hang out. The mic is not actually coming up at the moment. Now we've got these tabs up here at the moment, so I could invite individuals, I could chat with them, which means that I can still have text conversations with them even while the Hangout's going on. So the first thing we can see is that Finton, who's sitting in the front row, has joined the Hangout. So straight away showing that it's not just on a desktop device that this works; it also works really, really well on a smartphone. So there's Finton. You should probably turn that off because that echo is really kind of doing my head in. Alicia, where's Alicia? She's still in there. There she is. She's joined as well. Thank you, Alicia. And we've got Neve. So let's do this actually. So we've got this funny annotation up here. Now what happens when I do that annotation? I get a dog nose. I don't know if you can see me down the bottom with a dog nose. Yes, that's brilliant. Neve, I wonder. Hello, Neve. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Do you want to give yourself a dog nose so we look the same?
Do I want to give myself a dog nose?
Go on, give yourself a dog nose.
I look like a dog already.
Oh, come on. Hey, there we go. So this is, who would have thought they're coming to Google today and they're going to see two dogs talking to each other on a video link. Amazing stuff. So, Neve, what are you doing? What's going on? Where are you?
What am I doing? Well, I just had lunch and it was great, but whilst I was at lunch, I found this really, really funny video.
Oh, really?
I wanted to share with you, if that's all right. Can I?
Yeah, of course you can. Let's watch that video. So I just
This
switched.
is kind of an ad for a movie that I am loving at the moment. Okay, so let me just pull it up. Okay.
We got no sound. We got no sound. What's going on? Neve, the sound's not working. She can't hear me. Let's tell her. There we go. Anyone seen the Muppets? Yeah? Someone must have seen the Muppets. It's massive. It's a great video, Neve.
I think it's fantastic.
It is really, really good. Thank you very much for sharing the Muppets. Go on. Go on.
Is it Greenlight that you have in?
It is Greenlight, yeah.
Okay, so there's a very special person in your audience at the moment.
Right, okay.
And little do a lot of the people in the room know, but this particular person has an interesting, I don't know, how shall we say, an interesting hobby.
Okay.
So he likes to sing a lot. So I just wanted to share a nice little picture with you. Can we all see that?
Hang on 1 second. There we go. I think Paul should stand up and take a bow.
Please don't kill me.
Brilliant.
Listen, guys, I better get back to work. Okay?
Thank you very much, Neve. That's great stuff. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
So right, okay. So you can see that there's some really straightforward uses of Google Plus. Humiliating Greenlighters is obviously a really, really good one. For Google Plus, but I think from a practical perspective, we've started to use the Hangout facility across Google. So because it's so easy to use, even if you're not yet using Google Plus and the Hangout facility to do any kind of external marketing, I'd implore you to use it as an internal tool. It's completely free, and it's a really, really good way, a really, really simple way of getting people across your different organisations or different offices into one conversation. So. Now, on my stream, there's just a couple of things that I want to show you here, because we've made a couple of changes overnight, which is always quite interesting when that happens. It's obviously, you plan a presentation and all of a sudden different things happen. So there are a couple of things here. One, which I should point out, is that the +1 button has gone from a blue to a red. So if we +1 something, it now turns red. So don't think that when you're +1ing something, there's something wrong with your screen. There is the change that we've made. The other thing is that we've made this change to ripples. Now, I'm actually going to go to, I don't know if any of you played with ripples, but essentially what ripples is doing is showing you how content is shared across Google+. Now, this is a really, really good way of trying to get a good understanding of who the key influencers are for your content and therefore your brand. So we've got a kind of a couple of examples that Louis Gray, who works on Google+ in our Mountain View office, has shared. There's this one here. I don't know if everyone's seen the dollarshaveclub.com video. I'm not going to show it today, but please do go onto YouTube and watch it. It's one of the best ads I've seen for a long time. You can see with that genuinely is what the ad's called. Dollarshave.com, our blades are great, which is interesting. But what you can see here is the difference that we've made is that previously, when you looked at a ripple, you were only looking at how that content was shared from that particular post. We can now see how that content is shared across all of Google+. So not just from that post, but from everywhere on Google+. So we can see that I clicked on this link from Casey McKinnon, but actually that Dante Fernandez is the person who's shared it and got the most amount of content from it. Danny Sullivan shared it, Vic Condotra shared it, and various other people. So you get to start to see a really, really strong picture of everything that's going on within Google+. And we can go into these circles in detail. We can see the kind of comments that they've put about that video in this space, or it could be any post. So straight away you can start to see the people who could be advocates for your brand, and you can start to have a much closer conversation with those guys. If we go to the bottom, we can watch if we click on this button here, we can actually watch the spread of the post. So we can see how it spread over time. So it's only been for a couple of days, but in a very, very short space of time, you can see that this really picks up. This has genuinely gone viral. We talk about it a lot. But you can see that whilst there was a massive shift in the first place, we talk a lot about the half-life of a post. So the amount of time it takes to get half of the clicks it's ever going to get is the half-life of a social media post. But you can see it's actually getting a life of its own. It's going on and on and on. It's really pushing towards the long tail, which is interesting because it means that you can explore that data, you can try and understand what's happening with your content, and you can make contact with the guys accordingly. So, and then at the bottom we can see who the influencers are. So again, Dante Fernandez at the moment. If I was dollarshave.com, I'd probably be reaching out to him. He's clearly an influential person, either for viral and funny videos or for something else, and so on. You can see stats there and the languages that the post is being published in. So a huge amount of content that we can actually get from ripples. Now I'm just going to shoot back to the presentation quickly. So that was Hangout. So the second thing is about, third thing is about recommendations lacking staying power. So this is the point that you want a recommendation when you want that recommendation, and you want it from someone whose recommendation you trust for that particular topic. So again, looking at Google Plus being for interest and not just for social graph. So for the sake of argument, some of you might not be based in Covent Garden, but you're here today and you might fancy going out for dinner in Covent Garden. And if you if you spoke to someone 6 months ago and they recommended you a restaurant in Covent Garden, you may well have forgotten 6 months later. Whereas with Google Plus, what it actually does is if you search for Covent Garden restaurant now, if a particular restaurant had been +1'd, it would come up now. So you could book that restaurant because you know that someone who is into food or is someone whose opinion you trust has +1 that, and that's like a personal endorsement of that particular thing. So this is a pretty basic example. This is Kia cars. So as I can see here, various people are into Kia cars. I'm looking for a car. Kia car's probably a bit small for my enormous brood. But if it wasn't, then I'd probably look at that and think, well, Colin Berger, he is a bit of a car geek, so I'd probably be quite interested in following that up. Then another example that we can see here is H&M, where you've actually got a number of people that have actually +1 this. This is quite an old example now. H&M is one of the best users of Google Plus so far. They've got well over 500,000 people on their site, and again, I'd advise you to have a look at it to get some ideas about how it works or what they're doing. And so, what we're saying here is that these recommendations are being surfaced when I want them most. When I'm searching for something, when I'm looking for something, I'm being given examples of people that I trust about what's good in this particular space. We've touched on this already because we were live. So that's how it used to look, and as you can see, it's got significantly better already. So again, when you're posting on Google Plus, do have a look at ripples and try and understand how your content is being spread. Get in touch with the people who are posting your content most, and then try and understand how to use them to influence more people. And the final kind of issue that we highlighted was that marketing is fragmented, and this goes back to this enormous noise that's out there at the moment. And so we kind of increasingly hear. I mean, in the old days it was, well, there's a digital budget, or there's a search budget, or there's now a social media budget, and we've got a social media strategy. Well, we think that it should be a consumer strategy, it should be a marketing strategy. Everything should be integrated. It should come together. So you're actually trying to do the same thing. The consumer is the same person. The consumer doesn't really care where he interacts with your content. So where this is going to is what if you could have social elements in all of your efforts? And this is going back to what I said at the beginning of Google Plus being a social layer across everything we do. Now, taking the Cadbury page to start with, and Cadbury, and again, another really good example of a brand that's doing great things on Google Plus. Apart from giving quite a few Googlers personal chocolate bars, so Vic Condotra, who's like the lead of Google Plus globally, got a Vic Condotra 1 kilogram Cadbury's bar. Partly because he started to talk quite a lot about Cadbury. So if you want a 1 kilogram bar from Cadbury's, then maybe start doing that. But the first thing you can see is how many people have either added Cadbury to their circles or +1 Cadbury across the web. So it's this aggregation effect of putting all of the information that's being dragged from across the web into one place. Now, Cadbury have also done quite an interesting thing with circles, where they're talking about adding you to circles, but also jump into one of ours. And what these circles do, if you actually go into one of these circles, you'll get exclusive offers and potentially new products based on well, either Google Plus or Cream Egg, Whisper or Dairy Milk. So, you know, if you're big chocolate fans, then do stick yourself in those circles and you actually start to get, I don't know, maybe some free chocolate. But back to the +1 thing. So we can see there that we've got, you know, over 500,000 people that have either +1 that page or have +1 a site somewhere else. And this is where we're talking about +1s across the web. So bringing it all together. So at the moment, we can put a +1 on pretty much anything that is a Google product. We can +1 a display ad, a video ad, a mobile search, Google Plus page, obviously, because we've just seen that, and your site. So you can put a Google Plus badge on your site. The user doesn't even have to leave it to add your site or your Google Plus page to his own circles. And so by bringing all these things together, you start to get a really, really good understanding of how a consumer is interacting with your brand, and therefore how they're sharing their content, where you're seeing where they're seeing your content, and therefore where you should start to maximise your marketing efforts. Now we also released something else yesterday, which for the first time we've released what effect +1 is actually having on click-through rate. It's a question that I've been asked pretty much every single meeting I've had on Google Plus for the last 8 months since we first launched it. We're actually seeing a 5 to 10% uplift in click-through rate on ads that have got social annotations, so ads that have got a +1 on them. Now this is going back to the guys who've been involved in search from the start. This is one of the biggest uplifts we've ever seen on any change we've ever made to a Google search product, so it's enormous. And so, you know, if you're using search, it would make sense to get a Google Plus page so you can actually start to manage this process much more effectively. So 3 really, really straightforward things to do at the bottom: create your page, add the Google Plus page to your site to get more followers, and then enable the social extensions so you can actually start to get this increase, this uplift on your ads, this 5 to 10% uplift. And I think, you know, the other thing that just to finish, the other thing that we need to bear in mind is the size of the audience that we're talking about. So, you know, we're not just talking about search. We're not just talking actually about Google Plus as a standalone site. You know, again, there've been lots of noise about are people interacting. I mean, if you spend time on Google Plus, you can see that there is lots of interaction. We're over 100 million users on Google Plus itself now, which is vast, and it's the fastest growing website ever. But it's much more than that. It's much more about the impact that it can have across all these other channels. You know, YouTube, second largest search engine in the world, largest video site in the world. The mobile ecosystem that we're starting to build out, and so on. And so, you know, when you're thinking about why should I launch a Google Plus page, it's A, to take advantage of all those examples, B, to add this social layer across all of your sites, and C, most importantly, I think, right now, to get that 5 to 10% increase in click-through rate on your search ads. That's Google Plus. Thank you.